And but we're live, so we're going to do our intros, and then we're going to introduce y'all.
There you go.
So,
Go ahead.
what up, Barflies? You already know who it is. It's Big
is
Dan.
it? Big Dan.
Rodan.
Rodan.
I'm coming to you live from the 215, your comic book connoisseur, your sommelier of sci-fi and superheroes, here to welcome you to the Blerd Bar.
Blerd Bar. Blerd Bar. Blerd Bar.
And that's not my sound.
Come
on, producer.
Fired.
Let's try this again.
You know what?
Producer, great thing. There's a thing,
button?
the Stream Deck with a button over there. It says Big Dan on it.
There
you
it
go.
is.
I'm sorry, we had a lot of stuff going on. So there's also a Jayhawk button over there. So if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well,
live is live.
Live is live, and here we are. Last descendant of Yasuke, sub overdub for all anime, salsa dancing ninja, stay on his toes, got a sake flight ready to go. It's your boy Hawkins Hanzo. Hey, and we are here with the legends. I guess we should introduce to some and I don't know, reintroduce, re-welcome to others. Like, yeah. We have, I mean, they're your peoples. Go ahead.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we have the honor, the historic honor of talking with the creators, Larry Stroman and Todd Johnson.
Let's go.
The creators of Tribe Comics.
Let's go.
The most historic,
most sold,
best-selling, #1 issue from African Americans about African Americans.
Hey, FUBU. But like better.
Oh man, you guys are comedians.
We have all kinds of fun here, and I'm just checking with the producer here because it looks like we're not live, and I'm trying to figure out why.
You mean you guys get all that great introduction?
Yeah, and we might have to do it again.
Man.
Oh no, we're good. We're good. Yeah,
awesome.
It's showing up. We're good.
Larry, we need us a bunch of code words and nicknames and stuff.
Oh yeah. Iconic would be one of them, right?
Man, Hawkins Hanzo, man.
Played a lot of Samurai Showdown when I was young.
Yeah. So if you guys don't mind introducing yourselves, if for those who don't know who you are yet, right?
All right, I don't have a big fancy introduction, but my name is Todd Johnson. I am the writer and co-creator of Tribe.
TJ. Bars. And Larry.
My name is Larry Stroman. I've been in this business for a while. So I'd like to say I'm the guy who drew, I can't even remember that stuff. There's been a lot of stuff. But I guess since we're talking about Tribe, I can remember that.
Hey, there it is. Larry Stroman, the strong man. Huh?
The strong man?
Yeah.
All right.
Like Hercules.
Hey.
Man, we got to take Josh on the road, man.
I try. I do what I can. Earn my
You are doing right. You're doing all the heavy lifting right now. But
ladies and gentlemen.
So, first and foremost, thank you.
Yeah.
Just for honoring us with your presence. Black History Month being Black History Month and having actual Black history before us. I just want to say,
and Black Future.
Hey,
hey.
But history is always written
by the winners.
By the people who make it.
That's true.
By the people who make it.
That's right. There's no colonizers here.
So, I want to express to you guys first and foremost, thank you. Not just for being here, but the actual work you guys have put in to create characters that are unique, organic, and your own. You own these characters. There's no legal battle to be had. There's no debacles, no scandals that say, these aren't your characters. So
no, actually, there are always legal problems because you're constantly battling with other people over whether they feel that they own the rights to a particular name or particular kind of costume design. And I've even known people to go after people because of a pose.
Wow.
So
a pose.
The legal thing is always an issue. It's a little bit less when it's something that you own, but it's still something you have to always watch out for.
Okay. Well, thank you for informing us on the comic game, because honestly, I'll be honest with you, whenever we think about comics, or for myself in general, I'm very much aware of the indie space, not just the big three, as they would call it, Marvel, DC, and Image. But it's very weird to think that like somebody come after you for your poses.
Well, that the thing is, people don't understand, you can be sued for anything. That doesn't mean people are going to win. So it's a matter of how you have your thing set up in the beginning. Like, you have the Blerd Bar, and then somebody else decides to be the Blerd Bar. So you might say it's yours, but it's the defense that proves it's yours.
Gotcha.
And they're going to force you to have to go spend. They could just go start their channel, start passing out T-shirts and everything, but you have to go get a lawyer, and you have to start initiating stuff and spend money to reinforce your claim or walk away if you can't afford it. So sometimes it becomes a fight, it's a David and Goliath type thing.
Right.
And that's the unfortunate part of doing anything that anybody relates to being successful in any way.
Wow.
There's always people who say, "Oh, I was having a conversation with a guy one time, and he said, oh, yeah, there's these couple of guys, and they sold an idea that I had." And I said, "Well, what was that?" He said, "Oh, I had an idea for a book called Tribe." I said, "Oh, you did?" And
that was you?
He said, "They stole that idea from me." And I said, "Okay." I said, when did your book come out?" He said, oh, well, he says, I came up with my idea like the year 2001.
And you're like, ooh.
I said, dude, I said, that came out in 1993.
And he was like, no, it didn't.
And then he just got quiet, and then that was he never said nothing else after that.
Yeah.
But that stuff you go through all the time. And I remember in the process of us even promoting Tribe, I got calls from a couple of guys talking about, well, I just want to let you know I have a book that's very similar to that, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, so? Yeah. And then that was it. But that guy could have just been really persistent. He could have kept pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And then we could have ended up in court over like just some nonsense stuff.
Nonsense.
Well, you think about this too. You're a comic guy, Dan, and you've been reading comics your whole life.
Yes.
Now, how many power bases are there? There's strength, there's flight, there's stretching, there's turning, earth, wind, and fire. There's
that's about it. I mean, it's limited.
Everything else is just elements of that. So as soon as you're a strong guy, I say, man, I got a guy that's strong, just like your strong guy. My guy has stones, and your guy has stones. I mean, it's like. You just have to. It's just how you write the characters.
And I want to sue you because you drew a picture of your character standing with his legs open, with his fist on his waist.
Oh man!
And he has a cape. Yeah. My character has a cape. Why does your character have a cape? Like,
and that's why Edna says no capes.
No capes.
No capes.
Now get you a good lawyer in the beginning and get your paperwork together and keep it real close in a file.
Keep it real close.
You can find right away.
That's what you hear. What he's saying?
Keep it in your intimates.
Yeah. Make a copy, put it over your mama's house. Make another copy, put it in your sister's house, whatever. Because sometimes as time goes on, man, those original papers you got, you can't even find the stuff.
Can't even find it no more.
So just be.
And the reason why, because all of this stuff starts off the same. It starts off as a couple of people just want to have some fun, doing something that they've been inspired by from something else that they saw.
Like you and me.
And then what ends up coming out of it is you now have to change whatever it is that you have and make it unique so that somebody doesn't come after you and take you to court for whatever it is.
Well, that's great. And I think that's a great segue because
but before we get started, because I feel like we didn't do this yet.
Well, I know. I was getting there.
Oh, is that what you were going to do? Look at us.
No, but I was going to get there.
Okay. Well,
So here at the Blerd Bar, speaking of unique, It is the Blerd Bar. So we usually sip on something. Usually it's a cocktail or just something straight as we have tonight. Tonight we have cognac. I believe this is Nyak. 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 And I do believe it is black owned, so
Yes.
that's at least partially and that's what we love to promote here, black owned things. And so we're gonna have a sip of that. I'm gonna let you pour yours. And as well as I want to talk about, or I would like us to segue into the uniqueness of your story, like you guys' story. So we definitely have some questions here. Have we had this before?
I
feel like
podcast.
Probably. Yeah, I feel like we have. I mean, the bottle says we have, but so we've already rated it. Check our earlier episodes and
these
see
cats
what
gonna start slurring at the end of the interview.
No. We hold it together very well here on the Blerd Bar.
Keep it professional.
Because otherwise the video gets unwatchable after a while.
Yeah.
But before we do get started, Larry, as you are one of the OGs, you are giving Grandpa with the camera frame, and I don't know if we can fix that a little bit. Otherwise, I don't want nobody to talk about you in the comments being like, "Oh, he's right up on the camera."
I didn't feel like combing my beard, and I
okay. Then
he's like, I'm here,
and I can't find my teeth.
No,
fair.
Larry, I appreciate the honesty. We just met you, and I feel like
now
you're going to be one of my favorite people.
You're an uncle now. You're my uncle.
I might call you OG from now on. You are definitely uncle, and I appreciate it.
Get to your first question.
My first question.
There's no need to dwell on what just happened.
Sure. I want to ask, what was the first comic book that put you on the path of making Tribe? What was it that made Todd Johnson say, one day I'm gonna make a comic book? What was the comic book that made Larry Stroman say, I'm gonna do all this amazing illustrations and art down the line? What was that first thing?
I mean, for me, it was I think it was Marvel Comics, the Hulk, Avengers, Spider-Man, all of it. I mean, I started comics when I was a young kid. My older brothers read comics. Comics were just always around the house. And I don't think you take this path that when you first start reading, you say, oh, I'm gonna do comics.
Right.
At 10, 11 years old, I wasn't thinking I was going to transition into doing Tribe. I just loved the medium. I just loved the genre. So you're constantly just reading, absorbing. That led to me opening a shop. That led to me throwing conventions. You just immerse yourself in the whole culture of comics. So
and if I'm not,
just came from that.
If I'm not mistaken, you had like 4 shops, didn't you?
Yeah, we had 4 shops at one time. I started a shop with a guy by the name of Hassan Nurullah and Todd Ennis, and then Larry Stroman came in at the second shop, and we expanded from there. We ended up with 4 shops.
That's awesome.
And little shows, a couple of little shows.
Yeah, we started doing conventions too. That's how me and Larry met. We the original shop threw a show, and we met probably 2-3 years before Tribe, and just became friends, and it was just back and forth from there.
That's awesome. Strongman.
I had a brother who was he was pretty wild. He was always out in the street doing all kinds of crazy stuff. But the one thing that kind of made him kind of normal was his comic books. So he would always go to the store, he'd buy like whatever new comics came out, and it was always like this big stack of books in the house. And what he would do as soon as he was finished reading those books, he would toss them in the garbage. So I would every once in a while go and I just start kind of flipping through the books, and I was just amazed at the art that I saw in it. So eventually he started letting me have the books rather than to throw them away. And a lot of those books at the time were, these cheap books that you could buy at like a smoke shop or magazine stand where the part of the cover was ripped off, or maybe the whole cover was ripped off, and the condition of it didn't mean anything to me. I just liked the idea of looking at all that art. So I wasn't able to read much when I was a young kid, and I had suffered from dyslexia,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to learn how to read was just very painful to me. But I was always excited by looking at the pictures in the comics. So I'd run in the room and I say to my mother, "What does this word mean? And what does this word mean?" And she would say, "Well, why don't you just get a dictionary?" And I'm like, "But I don't know none of the words in the dictionary." So, but it was like one word at a time. I learned how to read these books, and to this day, the only thing that's interesting to me to read, for the most part, are comic books.
Oh, that's cool.
Now, of course, there's stuff you have to read. Being an adult,
Taxes, stop signs, stuff like that.
Understand it, and all that, contracts and all that other kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So one day I was standing in a line of what is now called 7-Eleven. At the time it was called like Store 24 or something like that.
Callback.
And it was a comic rack in front of me, and I was just buying a bunch of junk to eat. And I saw this Fantastic Four comic book, and I really liked the cover of it. And at the time, it was like comics were like 25 cents. So I just decided to buy that comic book, and man, I looked at that comic so many times that the pages were falling apart.
Do you remember the issue? I'm sorry,
it was 81. I think it was 81.
Okay,
it was a reprint.
Okay.
And then I went back for the next couple of months to get the next couple of ones. And then one day I ended up picking up a little, it was a newspaper, but it was like a science fiction fantasy newspaper. And I was looking at all these like pictures of like movies and stuff that I was interested in that I had not seen on television yet. So I let my mother look at it because she liked some of that kind of stuff. So she's looking at it. So she calls me. She says, "Hey, Larry," and I said, "Yeah." She says, "You want to go to a comic show?" And I was like, "What is that?" He says, "People get together and they look at each other comics or whatever." And I was like, "I guess so." So go down into this comic show, and it only costs like $1 to get in.
Wow.
It was just amazing to see so many comic books in one spot.
Wow.
And I think I brought with me like $20 or something like that.
Oh, he was high rolling. Okay.
Yeah.
That's like $1 million. I'm going to get everything.
Right. No, but what it is there was lots of boxes filled with comics with pages ripped out of them, or dogs had chewed it up, or just the whole cover itself gone. And these books were like 10 cents a piece. And I ended up leaving there with $40 of 10-cent comic books.
Wow.
And as I walked up there, I'm walking down the street and I'm like, look at all these dummies around here. They have no idea this gold that I have in this paper bag, right?
Precious.
And every month,
right.
Every month after that, I went to those shows until the bigger shows came around, and I started going to the bigger shows, and it just kept growing. And then one day I got a couple of graphic novels that Marvel had put together. One was called Secret Origins of Marvel Comics, and I forgot what the other one was. They were very, very, very similar. They were just reprints of popular books.
Bring on the villains.
Right.
No, there was another one. Remember there was one that had like a typewriter on the front?
Oh yeah.
Is that the one that Stan Lee put together?
Yeah. So I'm walking down the street and I'm flipping through these books, and I said, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life.
Wow.
I had no idea how I was going to come about doing it, but I knew that was what I was going to do. So here it is. And I'm 62 years old now, and I'm still doing it.
That's awesome.
And I'm still interested in that. And all the other stuff that people go off to do, I'm not that interested in that stuff. The comic stuff, I'm still interested in.
And that's interesting. You and Todd kind of touched on this, and it kind of leads to the next question about like the evolution. At what point for both of you did it go from just liking comics to wanting comics to essentially be like a job, to knowing like the final form is like knowing that it can pay bills? right? Like I think there's different levels where you can like,
hey, you don't know it. You don't know it can pay bills. That's not
still
what
to this day. It's like we still don't know. The lights could go off at any moment.
Right.
Trust me, I've had the lights go off. I've had winter times where I had no heat. And all this was through all of that stuff. So I know what all of that feels like. I mean, I remember I had gotten like this regular job, and I remember wintertime, it was like about a foot of snow outside. My car broke down, and I'm riding this bike through the snow for an hour and a half to get to the job. And I get to the job, and I'd sit there and I'd pull out my sketchbook and start drawing. It was always about drawing stuff. No matter, and then the rest of the time I spent hanging out in the libraries, drawing and drawing and drawing. And that's what it was all about.
Was there a time where you knew you were going to focus on it being a job? And this goes for you as well, Todd, because I know there was a time where you stepped away and you were like security for a moment, Larry?
I did that for about 10. I did the security thing for about 10 years.
Yeah.
Just putting hands on people for 10 years?
Yeah, just,
for 10 years.
Okay. Blessing people. Right. Just blessing. The power of Christ compels you.
So the interesting thing about that is when people think something of you, they can't seem to think you doing anything else. It just doesn't register to them. So I remember I would come to Todd and I said, "Oh, here's some of the videos of me fighting people at the job," and Todd just could not believe that the guy who sit down drawing pictures was actually fighting people.
Yeah, that was funny to see. But in answer to what you were saying about when you know something is going to be like something you could do as a profession, it's just a transition of what you decide. I mean, I think in the beginning, you're just a fan. You're just reading comics or you're collecting comics or whatever. Then you become, the more you collect, sometimes you turn into kind of a hobbyist. This is now my hobby, and I'm trying to get every issue of this particular series or this particular company. So at some point, most hobbyists and collectors at some point start trading or trying to sell something that they've got doubles of to get something else. So then all of a sudden you're a dealer. Now you're a dealer from either a small scale of going back and forth, or you're one of those huge dealers that you're traveling from show to show. So for me, it was just a transition of saying, wait a second, something I love can be transitioned into money as you start watching like trends as far as like that number ones or origin issues or first appearances, whatever. You see something in your own collection jump from you paid 50 cents from and now they're selling it for 20. So then you start saying, okay, I'm a dealer now, and everybody, you ever talk to your friends, and some people say they're collectors and some people say they're investors. Okay. The investor people think they're collecting because they're going to sell their comics. But like, if you notice that a lot of people that say they're investors, they never sell their stuff. So you're really not an investor. You're just a collector. And in some cases, a hoarder or whatever, but at some point, you take all that stuff and you say, for me, it was like I was going to take all this excess stuff and open a comic shop. So you think you're going to do something, you think you understand a particular part of a business until you get in it. And you say, oh man, I got to call a distributor and how do I get the new books and how do I do this? How do I do that? So it's like you're learning as you're going. And then you find out sometimes something that you love is not always the thing, back to what you said, and how you pay the bills. Sometimes it's still a hobby that is paying you a little bit of money, and you might still have to seek out a regular, what you call a day job or regular living. A lot of people that are in this culture, they still have the day job.
And just to clarify with people, I didn't do the security job because it
wasn't me.
No, because I wasn't getting any comic work. I did it because at the time I didn't want to do any comic work.
Right. Yeah. I remember.
I just wanted to step away. I thought I was going to step away for maybe a year or so, and then a year became another year, and another year, another year, another year. And when you're freelancing, and then you suddenly end up in a job where you're getting medical benefits, dental benefits, a check every other week.
Right.
That in itself becomes attractive.
Yeah.
So the thing is, with doing the comic thing, most people think of it as, oh, you're just like this nerdy dude who likes comics, and you go and you make your own comics. Well, from doing those comics, I've been able to travel to just about every state in America at some point or another for free. I've been invited to shows. I've stayed at some of the best hotels. I've eaten some of the best foods, and I didn't have to pay for any of it. I've met all kinds of famous people, movie stars, artists, actors, all that came from comics. And the 3 wives that I had all came from comics. And y'all don't know this yet, but my 4th wife is also going to come as a result.
I'm sorry, I did a lot of research before.
So much research.
And that, you know what never came up?
That part. That part.
That's not something you can necessarily research, man. You, you can't Google somebody's love life or whatever. You know?
You'd be like, how many wives did Larry Stroman have? You heard that here on the Blerd Bar.
Yeah. Okay.
Before we pivot, because we have to pivot, the reason why you guys are here, you guys are also celebrating the 30th anniversary of Tribe. And so before we jump right into that, before Tribe was a printed, published book, what was the conversation you had between you both? Todd, what was the conversation with you and Larry that brought that to fruition?
I mean, really, to be honest, the conversation started with just Larry giving me a call and say, hey, you want to write a comic, not write Tribe. So once I said yeah to that, he flew where I live. I live in Detroit. So he flew to Detroit and we talked about the type of comic we wanted to do. So, we started out with just the fact that we wanted to do a team book, and then Tribe just kind of formed out of conversations of things that we like, as far as all the comics that we had read through our life and things. It wasn't like it was kind of like, oh, we like a speed guy. Like I said, it's the same powers. Like, what do we want our speed guy to do that's different than just running fast? Our speed guy happens to be a professional boxer. So we figured, what would be more deadly than a professional boxer that now can move at a speed that's unbelievable? He's going to take some serious, violent, vicious shots on people. So it's all, you're just taking a spin on all the different stuff, and the guy that we have that shrinks, he shrinks by taking a lot of pain from somebody else hitting him or something,
Right.
So everything comes from, you're not creating a new power scale. There's not anything new to create. What you're doing is just taking different spins and then adding the personality to the individual character, who they are.
So here's something, and this is the first time that I'm admitting this.
Oh, Blerd Bar exclusive.
I love it. This is the clip. Producer, just make sure you be ready. This is the clip.
When we started off with the book, all we had was just a few ideas of what we thought would be cool to have a character and what the character would do and blah, blah, but we really had no idea what we were going to do.
Okay.
So we go to a show and I just showed these drawings and I said, hey, what do you all think about these characters? Oh, well, I think that character does this and he does that and he does this. And somebody else will say, I think this character does this, does that, does that. And then me and Todd was writing down notes and stuff. So we went back and we created the book based on what fans told us they liked about the character, about the drawings.
That's really cool.
So that's where the initial idea of the book itself came from, because previous to that, all we had was just some pictures.
We didn't even have the names. The names kind of came out of multiple conversation as well. We knew some of the powers that we wanted the characters to have. But we didn't necessarily have the name to go with it, because like we talked about earlier, there's a million names. And it's not like you can just say, hey, how about Superman? Some things are very obvious. If you read comics, you know, like a lot of them that are gone, but you'd be surprised how many are gone. And this is before you can start Googling stuff, This is the 90s. We had no cell phones, we had no internet. So some of it you're writing things down and you're talking to friends, you're talking to other people at comic shops, and they say, "Oh no, somebody else had a Flag Man, or somebody else had a Glass Man, or whatever." So it's trial and error, including when we actually turned the book in. There was a few things that we had that, even dealing with Image at that time, for them to call and say, "Well, so and so is doing a character similar to that, or so and so is doing a character's name that." So there was even little changes and altering that happened even then.
Before I get to my actual next question, I would love to ask, what did people think when you showed them a picture of Rosalind?
That's the favorite character,
right?
I
mean, I think she
No,
you
that
know
was
what?
no, that was the one that we didn't show a picture.
Yep.
Of.
Look at you.
We just showed the pictures of the other characters. She ended up being the very last thing, because me and Todd were just talking about something else, and I just drawn a picture and then I faxed it to him. And
What's
then
the
he busted
inspiration?
out laughing. Then somebody else laughed at it, and somebody else laughed at it, and I was like, "Well, I guess we'll keep her in there." Because originally she wasn't even supposed to be in the book.
She is the favorite character.
I feel like Larry was people watching and
Listen.
had a muse waltz by and was like, you know
what
what?
we did. So then what we did was we took people that we knew, and everybody has those family members who are like really exaggerated characters, or people you grew up with in your neighborhood or went to school with. And then those were the people that we took in order to kind of define who some of the characters were.
All right, Rosalind, you know who you are. Get your royalties.
Well, the thing is, I have a sister named Rosalind who didn't take nothing from nobody.
Okay.
I've stood there and watched her stand up to dudes that were like 5 times her size. And she would have no problem fighting anybody or anything. So we were talking about her. We were talking about, and all of us know dudes who spend half their life locked up in jail for whatever reason it is. And you take those guys and you add them with the guys down the street or the bullies around the corner that you had to deal with when you were growing up and going to school. And then you just take them and just make comic book versions of all of that.
Wow.
And that's how and I think that's what makes the characters who are realistic characters appear to be real.
Yeah.
Definitely. As opposed to the ones where somebody's just simply copying what somebody else did before.
Of course.
And for me, especially developing as an artist, the point in which I knew I made it was when people started to stop saying, your art reminds me of this person and this person, and it reminds me of this person, whatever. When people started saying, "Man, I don't know where your style came from," I was like, "Yes,
Okay,
yes, I did it. I made it."
As someone who has read as far back as, I would say, 1941, I've gone as far back as in my history of comics. Obviously, I've read I've been trying
that in itself is amazing.
That's a deep dive.
That your art style is unparalleled. Obviously, it drew on some early inspiration. I would almost argue Ramita Sr.
Nope.
did some inspiration, but I would argue that. I'm obviously wrong. But obviously, and I'm glad I'm doing this live in front of a bunch of people. But outside of that, everything else seemed unparalleled, especially in your X Factor runs and onward, and especially with Tribe. I think when I look at Tribe, the only inspiration I feel reading Tribe is like Run DMC. Like I feel music more than I feel anybody else influencing your art style.
That's interesting that you said that.
When I first moved to New York, I was just this nerdy guy, wore this tweed jacket and all that kind of stuff, and everybody stared at me because I was living in Harlem at the time. And everybody's looking at me, who's it? Is he like a professor or something? So as I'm walking on the street in those days, the guys had the big radios that they had on their shoulders, and they were walking around. And I kept hearing this beat. the same beat over and over and over. Man, I got so sick of hearing that beat. I said, I don't know what that is, but man, I hope they kill them dudes that made that. So fast forward a couple of years later, I'm really into like buying rap music and stuff.
Unfortunately, another Blerd Bar exclusive.
I bought 3 or 4 Run DMC albums.
Oh wow. Oh man.
And there's that beat. I'm like, that's where it came from. Run DMC.
I like that.
Right?
I like that.
But of course I've been a fan of their stuff ever since.
Oh man, I
feel
feel
Dan,
like
you were actually the first person that's actually noticed that there is a musical influence within the comic. You're the first person that's ever said that or said that they kind of felt that, to be honest. Part of our background, Larry is a huge hip hop fan. He'll talk about the most obscure rap characters and stuff. And then I have a background in the DJ business and throwing parties and stuff. So music was really part of, we tried to slide a few little elements in there of what the characters were listening to. And one of the characters is a DJ and runs a club. And there's always somebody playing
that
something.
was the coolest power. Sorry. Go ahead. Keep going. But
I remember that power. Go ahead. I want to hear what you have to say about the power.
The fact that he could project or make you believe that you were like in a dope club.
You talking about Front?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, the club is called the Front.
Yes.
The club is called the Front. Right?
No, Front.
The club is the hype.
Oh, the club is the hype.
Front
he's called Front.
Yeah.
But like that is so cool to be like, oh, come to like my venue. And like only because I think of the overhead and I'm like, oh, I just got to use my powers. What? Like, exactly. I was like, that would be me. I would run the club and I would just psionically like make people think that they're in the like classiest spot ever.
So there was this thing we never got around to doing it, but we were going to have it where a couple of the characters were arguing with each other. So one of them asked him, why is it that you always go around looking like somebody else as opposed to yourself? So when you think of all of the people who are, they wear certain things, they do their hair in certain styles, they want to bleach their skin, they want to do all the fake eyelashes, all that stuff because they want to be somebody else. But very few people ask them, why do you want to be someone else? What's wrong with you being the way you are? So we were going to have that argument go on. We hadn't gotten to that point yet because the book had ended, but that's something I still would like to cover.
Maybe it'll be in this.
So that's, like I said, so having characters who have all the different powers, you also want to cover how does that particular power affect that person, as opposed to, like how the Thing in Fantastic Four could never turn back into a human,
right?
Until something
until the story happened. Until the story needed it.
Yeah, but in the meantime, he was this rock character, but he had a girlfriend, but he could never really be intimate with the girlfriend because of the condition that he was in.
Just couldn't get his rocks off.
And I think it
that's a good one.
Bang. No, that's when you should go. Wah, 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 wah.
That's a good one. Woo, man. But see, part of the Front story was going to be a thing where it took many issues before any of them really knew who he was, because how they met him, they think he's the young black guy you see in the show. I mean, in the comic. But then who he's posing as is this white guy. So their whole thing is why to run a popular club? Why'd you choose to be this white guy? So he has a whole story by why he's doing all the stuff he's doing. Who are these different characters? So the whole thing is, what is the Front? What does he really look like? Who is he really? That's going to be an interesting loop that we can get to eventually.
Yeah, especially in Black History Month.
So right, Black History Month. It's great, but I really think we should pivot really into the story of Tribe. It's been 30 years. Obviously, you guys have been very vocal in the past about the issues with Image and why the publishing did not continue with them past issue one.
Trust me,
Larry.
We have not been vocal about it.
I would hope
we've not said what we really think.
Well, if you want to
listen, if you want to help us, help y'all alleviate that pressure.
Because we're nice guys,
right?
We don't like.
And mostly, it's important that we've never been physical about it, not verbal.
Talk that talk. I like that. We are in the age of we're in the post Cat Williams era. So if you guys want to be open and vocal about what happened,
post Cat Williams, man.
you know,
the thing is, most of those guys we get along with. You know, most of them guys I like. It's just about 3 or 4 of them that I didn't like,
and you know,
I don't have any contact or interaction with them, so it doesn't even matter
anymore. And I respect that professionalism, that part.
Okay.
But I'm always team petty. You know, if you gotta express yourself in any kind of way, by all means. But moving past that,
the problem is it's ancient history now. You know, it's like you know, you have to summon a certain amount of emotion to be petty. And
I'm familiar.
After 30 years, I mean, you know, come on, man. You know, it's like
either get blessed or get therapy.
Right.
Yeah, you know.
Better help.
Been there, done that, you know.
So we've heard through the grapevine, we've seen in other interviews that you guys have expressed that there's a remix coming for Tribe, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, it will be very graphic novel-esque, but not necessarily
anything that you do creatively after a certain amount of time. You go back and you look at it and say, man, I should have changed this and I should have added that. I should have taken that out. And this would make more sense if I did this way. You know, like, you know, people being mad at George Lucas adding stuff into Star Wars. That was his vision. And that's how we are with our vision, is that you know, we know what we wanted the book to do, but sometimes you can't do stuff because you can't figure it out at the time. You can't figure out how to solve that problem either as doing art or writing. And then if stuff ends too quickly, then you know, you lost that ability to be able to say what else was supposed to happen to it. So.
And speaking of the time that it took between then and now, I remember in a previous interview, Todd, you said that sometimes like producers don't care about the property for movies that they might do for like what are they called? Adaptations. Now, would that be a deal breaker if someone came to you and said like, hey, we heard you're doing this like 30th like revamp, like 30th anniversary, we'd love to make because Netflix is the thing, right? We'd love to make like a Netflix live adaptation or a Netflix animated version of Tribe. Would you be in the room where it happens? Would you want to be in the room where it happens, where it's like, hey, if you haven't read all 4 issues, don't even apply for the job?
No, you know, you have to understand when somebody comes with you and they've got a check in hand or something, there's going to have to be some control. You already know you're going to have to give up. And that depends on how many digits are in that check.
Fair.
You know, but as far as what we're trying to do, it's a twofold thing. You know, we're coming, you know, as far as the remix, that's on the 4 issues that we already did into a graphic novel, shall we say. So you're trying to bring, you know, do something solid with the old fans, but then you want to bring new people to the table. And then the next part would be launching just a regular comic, which would take the story to the next level of where we were going. So, you know, we're covering 2 bases at the same time. Now, as far as adaptations or selling it for movies or cartoons and stuff like that, that's the future that you don't know. You know, but you're always open. We're open to put this out in any means necessary, but you still have some control over where it goes. We're not looking to sell the property, shall we say?
Right.
You know, and that's when you see people just go buck wild with other people.
So I'll just let you know right now, so it's not a big surprise or shock to anybody when it actually happens.
Another Blerd Bar exclusive. Get ready.
But when the Tribe movie comes out, Rousen's going to be a white woman with a flat behind, and then the front is going to be like some dwarf dude, and then a blind spot will be called Black Spot, and it's like, you know, it's
Larry. What are you sipping on tonight? We have cognac. What are you sipping on?
So what happens is You do your job within a medium that you know and that you understand. But when that goes to another medium, they do what they understand. And they might feel that something that you thought was cool in your book is not going to work on film.
Gotcha.
So they'll decide to do something else. It's like, I don't know if you've seen that awful Inhumans TV series that was on. They take a woman who's about this long, crazy hair that she controls.
Talk about it.
And they cut all her hair off
immediately.
And why did they do that? Because they didn't want to financially have to deal with the fact that this woman had all this crazy hair. And then sometimes some stuff just doesn't work on film.
It doesn't work.
So they eliminate it. You know?
All right, real quick. This is a weird caveat, but the fact that you brought it up is something you know how I feel about Fantastic Four, right?
Sure.
So I'm going to express it to you guys. I believe that Fantastic Four, if ever adapted again, should be animated because live action does not work for those 4 characters. Correct me if I'm wrong. I just want to hear one of y'all confirm that I'm.
It can work if they decide that they want it to work, but people are paying attention to other stuff. I mean, to me, how do you have Galactus in a Fantastic Four movie and you never see him?
He's a cloud.
It doesn't even make sense.
He was a cloud.
That makes no sense whatsoever.
They could make it work in answer to what you said, Dan. I mean, a cartoon would be great, but that would just be a cop-out. I mean, you can do, if you look at the stuff they've done, you could do a Fantastic Four. They have to.
But there's been a bunch of Fantastic Four cartoons.
You have to get somebody that loves the story and understands. You have to first understand the first character that's the most important. And he's the most important for the whole Marvel universe, you know, and that's Reed Richards.
But that's where I argue it because stretch powers don't work on film to me.
They do work.
I haven't seen it effective outside of Terminator 2.
Okay, well, then it worked then.
It worked. It worked.
You got one exhibit. It's a matter of what you spend your money on. And if you really are, like you said, you're a hardcore fan of Fantastic Four. Reed Richards did his most important things and his biggest stories without stretching at all.
Agreed.
Okay, so you use his big brain. That's what he's supposed to be in, solving problems and all that type of thing. And then you wouldn't have to show so much of the stretching.
So the thing is, when you do stuff like show a power of a character, if you pull the camera back and you show the power, it doesn't look right. So what you need to do is just portray the power in a different way.
Yes.
You know, like there was that scene in The Incredibles where the woman starts to walk. She starts to walk out. Now, who was the one who had the? She was the one who had the stretching power, right?
Elastigirl. Yep.
Okay, so the husband is walking out, and then you see her stretch over to kind of put her arm around him, but you don't see her full body stretching. So that scene looked okay. So the mistake that they make is thinking that everything has to be something that you have to see, like from beginning to end. And sometimes stuff works better when you can only see a part of it, a little bit.
I wish they brought you on as a consultant, Larry. I really do.
There was an episode of X-Files where it had this weird guy who could shrink his body down and go into keyholes.
Yes.
Okay, that was great. You barely saw him do anything, but it was great that he was doing it and slide up under doors and stuff, but you didn't have to see his whole body go up under the door. So it worked.
You know what it is? What happens is particular powers to the powers that be in Hollywood, they think something like stretching is automatically like a slapstick power instead of something serious. So what they do is, like, if you look at the one movie when they went to the bachelor party, they had to have Reed doing the stupid dancing and being silly and stuff, you know, because they think stretching is silly. So any power they think is important, they spend some time doing it. Like, you know, just basic physical action. They show Captain America fighting like perfect.
Almost no problems at all. Yeah.
No problems. If you want to show the Hulk smashing the sides of buildings, they have no problem doing that. But as soon as somebody's stretching, oh, that's silly. It's got to be goofy. It's got to be funny. You know, it's like that's just an opinion. You just got to get the right director.
So
that's huge.
That was a really crazy caveat.
Question?
But yes, it is a question about. So back on Tribe, you then go from Image to Axis for the publishing, and what was the conversation for leaving between you two? Not just between you and Image, but what was the conversation and the decision between
the conversation you two? Was
I'm tired of this shit.
Bleep, bleep. And bleep. Let's go. That was the conversation.
Pretty much.
Todd, you can confirm that. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Pretty much. Add a couple more bleeps. But I can tell you that, you know, I can. It's probably better to show you than tell you, because this is something, you know, people always, you know, the rumors about firing this and firing that and all this sorts of thing. Mm-hmm. You know, we kind of saw the writing on the wall that we weren't going to fit in, shall we say, with the hierarchy pretty much immediately. And wow. Axis Comics kind of came out of the fact that we were going to have someplace to land and didn't have time to go try to talk to other companies and things like that. So Axis Comics was just a corporate entity that we put together so that we could land somewhere and try to get right back on our feet. Which we didn't know, obviously, dealing with, you know, all the different things you have to do with dealing with distributors and stuff like that. You know, you just didn't know. But I'm going to show you something. I'll show you how quickly we were.
Now, let me say this first.
We were thinking about it.
So, however it may have appeared to be to people, mm-hmm. the whole parting of the ways or whatever, as many problems as we might have had in our dealings and stuff, when we left with a smile on our face, because that was the biggest check I've ever gotten in my entire life that we got from that book. So it wasn't as painful while we were, you know, riding around on the cruise ship down in the Bahamas and stuff, and, you know, buying cars and houses and all that other kind of stuff.
Wiping the tears away with your dollars. I get it.
That was all right. And then we were able to then start just publishing our own stuff afterwards because we had the money to do that.
Mm. So if you've ever read Tribe, somewhere, this is Tribe 1.
Okay.
This is the height. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, if you notice on this is the DJ. That's the front, correct? That you were talking about. Mm-hmm. Now, if you look at the DJ booth, if you get closer and closer, what does that say? What does that say?
It does say Access.
Okay, Access.
That's how soon we were thinking about doing Access, because it just, you know, you could kind of tell a fit. You know,
mm-hmm. Yeah,
you could kind of tell where you're, you know. It's just not going to work. So before it starts working in a negative thing, you need to find a soft landing, shall we say?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I was just out of place there from day one, basically. I mean, I didn't cooperate with much of anything when they would tell us what they thought we should do or where we should sit at a show and all that kind of stuff. I was like, man, I do whatever I want.
That's cool.
You're a vibe, Larry, and I appreciate that.
I have a slight pivot of a question.
All right.
And this comes when I thought about this question, it actually came from the world of tennis. Roger Federer, he's known now for like his forehand. Like it's like one of the deadliest weapons ever.
Sure. I'm a comic book guy. Go ahead.
Cool. How he built that though was that in his beginning career, it was one of his weakest parts. Mm. And so people like kept attacking it. So he got better at it. Has healthy competitiveness shown you an area of growth that has helped you in your journey? And if so, who was your knowingly or unknowingly iron that sharpened your iron?
Huh?
Let me tackle that. Let me see if I can tackle it.
Go ahead, Todd. If you need a translator,
I think I know what you're saying, and I think for us as a team, we never thought of anybody as being competition, and I don't mean that as any kind of insult towards other creators.
That's bars.
Our biggest competition is ourselves, of beating ourselves at the things that you might do is procrastination or anything that would cause you not to do your best. So you are constantly competing with yourself to try to do better and better and better and better. So thinking about, I think everybody's too concerned nowadays with like the industry. That's all you hear people talk about is the industry. I'm only concerned with Tribe.
Gotcha.
I'm only concerned with how Tribe is going to interact with, how do I get it sold? How do I promote it? How do I get it in stores? How do I get it in fans' hands? How do I get to conventions? I don't have time to concern myself with this competitive thing. With who? Right. Who am I competing against? There's nobody that's going to help me sell Tribe. There's nobody that's going to help me write Tribe. So why should I be concerned with what they're doing? So we've never been competitive by nature. We're just back and forth with each other, trying to do the best that we can do. And right now, that's, coming back out here after 30 years, man, it is strictly focused on how do we get this book done, out, and killing. That's it. That's all it is.
Which brings me to the next question. And I love that you said what you said the way you said. It's been 30 years. The climate of Blackness, the Run DMC-ness of it all is now a thing of the past, right?
Somewhat. That's not all the way.
Hip hop's not dead.
Hip hop's not dead.
That's hip hop.
But even then, right? Is there any conversations around the idea of modernizing, or even bringing Tribe to the 2020s of it all? And
well, of course, you're not going to keep your property parked in the 90s, as far as the story you tell or the things that, the environment that they're in, the buildings they might pass or anything like that. It's kind of like nobody's drawing New York scenes with the Twin Towers in it anymore.
The only thing that you can say about stuff like that is, if you do something that has to do with a particular time period, then you have to always compensate for that time period. But that's not what we did. In our book, there's nobody walking around with radio. People aren't walking around with radios on their shoulders. People aren't walking around with baggy pants. People aren't walking around with overalls where the one thing is hanging down.
Right.
All of whatever was popular of a particular time period. I think you can look at that book and really not know what time the book takes place.
I would agree with you that it almost.
I don't draw like that. If you see me draw a crowd scene, I mean, there's people from all kinds of things. There'd be somebody wearing like a winter coat, and somebody else would be wearing like some tank top. It's just, there's no temperature in my books. It's just,
I would agree.
People just kind of exist.
And I think more so my questions probably pointed more toward the writing, which I guess is more in Todd's direction, right? And so but
the same thing would go with the writing, though. I'm not going to write jokes that are from the 90s or refer to music that I was listening to in 1995.
You hear that new Cisco album?
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to see, it's, we're older, but we're not nursing home patients. Like,
no. We're not putting you all in there. No.
Dick Van Dyke in the book. It's like, you have to stay with the times, whatever you do.
Right. And then I think there's still some things.
I am going to draw a scene that takes place in a nursing home.
Really?
Do it.
Yeah. I'm for it.
Do it.
I'm glad that we're getting all this information up front. And kind of nearing the end of this, but reading it now, back before when I don't even know how old I was, maybe like 16, 17. But reading it just to review in preparation for this, I just looked at it and I had like some issues, but I was listening to other interviews that you guys were giving, and then I was like, none of this is their fault. Like the lettering was a big thing to me, just from someone who continues to read comic books as time has gone on. And I'm like, as the ink and artist, Larry didn't do any of that. They bring somebody in for that. And I was getting ready, like I was trying to figure out how to have this conversation with you guys.
I don't get what you're saying. Are you saying
what are you saying?
Stuff a spell
Say it with
wrong?
your chest. No. Like whoever was doing the lettering, at some points it felt like it bled and was hard to read. But I'm also getting older in my age, and so maybe I needed glasses.
Some of what you're talking about is technical production type stuff that happens,
right?
From it's
from a
ultimately
printing,
always the creator's fault, and those are the types of things you have to try to tighten up with a relaunch. You try to improve on that,
But think of this: how many people do you know that in their first attempt to do a book that they got got
it right?
Because most people go through 30, 40 issues of something before they start to figure out what they're supposed to do. In the meantime, trying to keep people interested enough in a book that they would still be buying it.
Right. And to that point, I almost see the immediate shift in it when you go to issue 2, and I was like, okay, there was no problem here, but I was trying to figure out how to frame this and bring this to you guys. And then as time went on in my mind, I'm playing the conversation back in my head, and I'm like, I got it. They created the comic, but they did not ink. I mean, you did not letter the pages. And do you feel like whoever you guys go with going forward will get this right or improve upon this time now that you guys have done this?
Well, you're always trying to get improvement. That's, you're that's kind of a read the future kind of thing. Your goal is always to put your best foot forward. So yes, our intentions will be that the product is going to look great, read great, everything. But you got to see what you got to see.
I have one question.
Sure.
When is the documentary coming out? When are you going to when is the expose? When are you guys gonna tell all?
What do you want to hear, man?
Hey, I want it the whole. I think there's, because here's the thing, coming from the outside, literally.
I hit one of those guys at one point. Do you want me to talk about that?
I mean, if you want to, but
no, I'm not going to talk about that.
Okay.
No, but I think
statute of limitations has already passed. So
I think there is so much story, especially with the 30th anniversary and the remix that's coming out and everything. For me, from the outside looking in, hearing that, oh snap, we're about to do this interview. Oh snap, they sold the most ever, like 1 million copies plus, like 1 million plus copies. How come I have never heard of? How come I've never heard of it? Where is it? Where is it? And so I think, and we talked about this. And
it's funny you say, where is it? But then other people say they can find it everywhere.
Anywhere and everywhere. Right. Exactly. And I think we talked about this before, and it was well, it was the 90s. There was a lot going on. If you weren't in that space, you probably didn't know. But I think there's so much history there to be explained and really looked through that people can really glean gems from of what was happening during that time, that I think a documentary on you guys, on the story alone of just how this happened and where you guys are now and everything, I think that would be amazing, that people would love to see.
Well, the problem with documentaries is the ones that are really good take forever to be made. Some of them things go on for 10 years. But it's nearly impossible to get all of the people involved to tell the truth about something that happened. It's pretty much just this person has an opinion, that person has an opinion, and then people leave a lot of stuff out of the story. And sometimes it takes multiple documentaries before you finally figure out what in the world was going on.
And see, part of the part too is you have to decide, what is it you're trying to do? Are you just trying to put out your your creation, or are you trying to be like sensational? The stories about the past and why we didn't get along with somebody and why we fought somebody, that has nothing to do with Tribe.
Right.
You know, people just want to see, well, some people, the people that want to see Tribe, that's the people we're interested in.
Right.
The people that just want to know who got the knuckle sandwich, I mean, what does that matter?
Right.
I mean, that just becomes garbage, man. I mean, it's like, you know, that's not why I do it, and that's not why Larry does it. You know, and you would never get the full story. You would only hear us saying some things that happen, and then you go stuck the microphone or the camera in front of the other side. They'd say they're either not interested in talking about it or that's not the way it happened. So it just becomes like a he said, she said thing. Who cares?
I do think there's a third audience that may appreciate recognizing you guys as trailblazers. I do think, to Josh's point, and even the conversation we had before this, was you guys are on the list of not just comic book creators, but history that as Blerds, everyone should be aware of and familiar with.
That's what we got you for.
Which is why we're here. We appreciate it. And we will do that part, and we'll continue to do that part, and toot your horn for you, because I feel like there should be more conversation around this. There should always be more conversation around the fact that, you know, 1993, if I do the math correctly, Marvel and DC had already moved away from comic books in a way where they were jumping into animation and movies and just trying to find out how to make money in comics, while you guys in 1993 were like, we're going to sell 1 million.
Right.
And I think that's the conversation that doesn't get had often.
Well, you know, the legacy of something is an honor. I mean, it is an honor to still be standing after 30 years. It's an honor to have sold 1 million copies and have fans that still remembering you after 30 years.
Right.
And that's what legacy is all about. But that's the past. So people nowadays, you know, that are, like you said, that are not familiar with the book, that are hearing maybe the advertising, the hype that's going on right now. Creativity sometimes has people going kind of, what have you done for me lately? You know, after a while, we don't want to talk about Tribe #1 anymore. That's been there, done that, sold that. Like you say, they're everywhere. We want to, you know, you want to see what you can do now, and that's what
in those cars that we bought with the money we made from the book. We don't have those cars anymore, so it doesn't matter.
you ain't got the car, Larry?
I don't have a car anymore.
Come on, you ain't keep it with the rims or nothing?
No, man,
no rims. So, you know what I'm saying? So this is the challenge of now, going probably back, connected to your conversation about competitiveness and all that type of thing. We have to be able to do the business now in the way the business is. So there's advantages now that everybody has of being able to get the word out. We can be on great shows like this. We can set up Facebook pages and Instagram and send out emails. That's all great. But the negative is all of the feedback is instantaneously. You know, it's like, just like you just said, the lettering, that looked like that was bleeding a little bit, or that's going to be instant with any type of creative thing anybody does now.
That's exactly the way I sound too. That's crazy.
I mean, it's funny because your critics can be brutal and your fans can be loving, and it can all happen in the same environment at the same time on the same thread. I mean, the same thread. I could post something, say, hey, look at this great new picture, man, and people can love it, attack it, all in the same space.
All in the same space.
You know, so that's what we're dealing with now, is bringing our 90s personalities or whatever into the, it's like the Flintstones to the Jetsons now, you know, so, you know, we're going to see only, you know, it's put up or shut up, man. It's not, hey, we're legacy and we're legends, so buy our book. It's not like that. It's got to still be good. It's still got to be something somebody wants to spend their coin on.
And you know what? I think the fact that you even said that is a great testament to what we can expect.
I agree.
Because I feel like other people may have come in here and said, "Oh, like of course, like we did the thing back then." Like
They came in with airs,
right?
Yeah.
Like, they came, we did the thing, so like we're gonna be great. And it's like understanding that it's like, no, this is a new game. Like we back out here in these streets, and it's day one. It shows, I think, a hunger that if you think about like rappers, talking about hip hop. I think if you think of the evolution of certain rappers, it's like, oh, I like them back when they were like hungry for it. Right. And I think what you just said, Todd, lends to no, we still hungry. We still out here
and we gotta come
hunting for it. So I think that's really great.
You could Google this speech. Busta Rhymes just did a speech at the 50th anniversary of Hip Hop Awards.
I've seen it. Yeah.
And man, that dude is hungry, dude. He ain't trying to be Busta from the 90s.
Nah.
He wants to be Busta right now, busting people up. So it's like, we're not coming here to get a handout or anything, man. We're not coming here to get, we're coming here to produce something that we love, that we hope other people love as well,
Now, the final question. Because you've already said it elsewhere.
Take a drink first before you ask that final question.
All right.
There you go.
He's really trying to. He thinks the question going to change after that, but it's not.
I ain't expecting it to change. I expect you just be.
Finish the question, right? Finish the drink. So, final question.
Go
ahead. Issue 4 of. Now he just blew me up.
Oh no!
Was it the drink?
It was the drink.
The drink. You got me. You got me. But I'm gonna fix it. Issue 4 of Tribe. When, if you can give that date, if you're still working on it, fine. But are we expecting issue 4 anytime soon?
Issue 4 is actually issue 0. What you're expecting is issue 5.
Okay. Now, because I feel like issue 0 felt like a prelude.
No, if you really look at it, issue 4 finished.
I gotta go back and finish it.
It finished the Dragon crossover.
Right.
And it kind of ended as just a cliffhanger of they saw Rosalind change and they're like, okay, what the hell? And we never went off from that. So issue 4 was actually Tribe 0.
Because my brain says issue 0 felt like a almost retelling of the origin.
There's some new Tribe right there.
New Tribe. Thank you for making sure you covered some of it just so he didn't give the whole scene away. I appreciate that, Larry.
Ooh. What's that? That's Blind Spot's little sister.
And was that short?
Nope, that was a villain. No. That's somebody in the issue that his little sister is hanging out with some scandalous people.
Okay.
Now this is kind of a flashback telling the origin story of why Blind Spot and Shift are friends.
Okay.
This is Blind Spot getting ready to go whoop some ass.
Okay.
As he does.
As he would,
it's things you don't see. Character brushing his teeth. This is his girlfriend laying in the bed.
We might get flagged for that one.
No, it's fine.
She's got clothes on.
No, we know.
So anyways, we plan on coming right out the gate with what you would call issue 5.
Issue 5.
And the story will continue right from there. You won't feel like you're back in the 90s.
That's what I get. That's what I get for asking.
Characters are going to have canes and walkers.
Appreciate it.
Yep, you're going to enjoy it. I'm going to make sure you have it before anybody else has it too.
You know what? I appreciate that. And what I've done this entire interview is hold back tears. I want y'all to know that. My wife will tell you I was a nervous wreck just being, you never want to meet your heroes. But
that's what Larry told me. No, he's serious. He told me that. He said, you're going to come into the comic industry and all these people you think you love, you're going to hate them.
I said within a year.
And he was right.
Wow. Listen, I've only grown to love you guys even more. Just now off the page and actually meeting you guys virtually, but still kind of feel personal. I want to say thank you.
You're gonna have a real good time. We're gonna talk later about the Fantastic Four. You thought you knew.
Oh, okay. So here's a crazy caveat. I have something that's a sub channel of the Blerd Bar called The Cellar, because that's where everyone puts comic books anyway. So I would love to have you guys on for another conversation whenever, and we can nerd out about comic books. I tried to be nice to my
I'm
brother
here.
here.
I
So
say
you're an
stuff
anime
about
guy,
Roger Federer.
Josh's anime, and he starts talking about tennis and some nonsense. Like, sometimes you just don't need him in the room. But
we like that guy.
He's a good guy. He's a good guy. So I would love to bring you guys back for an actual comic book conversation and nerd out about the.
Yeah, we would love to come back, especially when the book comes out, and then we can read it down.
So whenever that happens, we'll talk off camera for that. But Barflies,
and I'll have my teeth by then.
The honesty from Larry Stroman is unparalleled. This is probably one of the favorite amazing moments I've ever had, because you think sometimes especially when you meet someone that I believe to be famous, they put on airs and they're like, oh, they bring their best.
Larry is a straight shooter in a way that I was not expecting.
So
I will say,
you guys drink whiskey?
Oh yes.
We have a tribe sponsor called Den of Thieves. I'm gonna send you a bottle.
Please do.
Please do. That is going to be that will be reviewed in our season opener if we get it by then, because this is actually a bonus episode for everyone that's watching.
Okay.
But once again, thank you, Barflies. Thank you.
Truly appreciate it.
No, truly appreciate
Issue
it.
5.
Issue 5.
Get this right.
You've heard it here first.
Issue 5 is on its way, and the moment it breaks, we will announce it. And is there anything else you guys want to say to the people?
Black Power.
Black Power. Black History Month.
Black
Power.
Black History Month.
And thank you guys for being a part of that history. I thank you for the trailblazing that you guys have done.
Stay black and keep hope alive.
That too. Right. Larry is so great.
Live long and prosper.
That too. Peace up.
A-Town
down. Producers, take us out of here. Y'all have a blessed night. Peace.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Ooh.